Hey everybody, welcome to Hit Rewind. This episode, we're doing two con artist flicks, Heartbreakers and Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, and honestly, it was perfect timing for this. Sad that he is gone, yes, but I love to celebrate the work of Gene Hackman. A guy who, if you look on paper, never should have been a leading man. So many studio films and independent stuff was made with him as the lead. Money was spent on a guy who does not look like a movie star. Of all the leading men for decades, he might be the least likely.
I think that there's a lot of leading men that surprise me, but I just think
Yeah, I mean,
that it's just equated to you know the what we think was attractive, or like what was a good body or whatever.
yeah. Yeah, back then, Burt Lancaster was the fittest man, or Kirk Douglas was the fittest man in the universe. And now you look at these actors; they all look like they're drawn in comic books. They're forced to starve themselves to work nonstop, and they look so perfect, like they were CGI. I would not be surprised if they're using some sort of AI to CGI everybody to look better. How the fuck does Jason Statham still look like that? But, if you look at the era that Gene Hackman rose up in, you had Donald Sutherland, Lee Marvin, Elliot Gould, guys that, George Segal.
Oh,
Yeah. But, I mean, this is kind of covering towards the end of his career, and he did two heist movies in the same year. And I almost wanted to cover that one, which is literally called Heist. It's a David Mamet film. But honestly, when you look at Heartbreakers, it is the perfect companion to Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. It's like the other side of the coin. And but not copies of each other. Clearly not like, oh, this felt like it was a sequel. It's obviously not. But yeah, it's so I guess to go in chronological order is probably the best way. So to start with Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, I cannot remember the name of it, but it was a remake, which people don't remember. I want to say it's called Bedtime Stories with David Niven and Marlon Brando. And here's the thing, it's the plot is so similar. It's almost to the T the same movie, except not funny. David Niven is working his ass off, and Marlon Brando just isn't funny, and that's where the movie gets killed. Yeah, and I don't know what they saw on this, but getting Frank Oz and Steve Martin together, and then getting Michael Caine to be more of the serious one, but still, Michael Caine is very funny in this, just very dry. I think it's one of the most perfect combinations in cinema history. Frank Oz and Steve Martin, people don't really think about, but
oh my God, what?
yeah, they did the Muppet movie together. They did Little Shop of Horrors, and clearly there was something there. So then it's Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, House Sitter, and I think there's a gap. And then they did Bowfinger, which that's going to come up on the show too, because that's another con artist movie. I just can't think of what would go with it right now. But the
you know that their character names in that movie, the Bedtime Stories,
really, I mean, I saw it a few years ago, but
it clearly is supposed to be a remake. Freddie Benson and Lawrence.
okay, yeah. And this was made a few years ago, or it was remade again a few years ago, called The Hustle, and it's almost there, but for whatever reason, it's okay. Anne Hathaway, she's the serious one, but she doesn't get the laughs the way that Michael Caine does. And what's her name? I don't really find her funny. I can't remember. Rebel Wilson? Yeah, I just don't find her funny. But
Movies that just don't try to do this again.
yeah, and don't repeat it again. Do you remember the very first trailer we saw for this, where they're walking along the Riviera and it looks very proper and gentlemanly, and slowly Steve Martin puts his hand out and shoves a kid into the water?
Yeah, I remember.
And then we were kind of mad the first time because that scene made us laugh so hard, but it's not in the movie, and not understanding as a child what a teaser trailer was.
Yeah.
But my God, how many times have we seen this film, and how many times do we fucking quote this and leave our mother in hysterics when we say, "Not mother"?
Not mother?
Just reenacting. Yeah, reenacting that whole sequence.
One of the few got such a kick out of.
Yeah. And it says here Eddie Murphy was originally up for the role of Freddie Benson, and it was John Cleese they were trying to pair him with, but it didn't go through. Richard Dreyfuss was sent as Michael Palin, but I really think this is just the absolute perfect combination.
You know what I think is funny, and maybe this is part of the reason why it works, but the newer one didn't, because these are like old, not terribly attractive dudes, but somehow have all this like they're just smooth as hell. But what's the point of doing it if you're, like young and beautiful? Like it's not, it doesn't have this.
Yeah, you're right, because yeah, so well, Steve Martin he's not that bright, he's not that charming, but he has a way of manipulating, but he's so small time. And he's damaging the goods for Michael Caine, who's big time. And the whole ordeal, I fucking love training montages. It doesn't even have to be
Yeah,
working out, but the montage of teaching him how to be a proper gentleman, it just kills me.
yeah. I think it's just so funny when they meet on the train and he's like, "Have you ever taken a lady for $20?"
Fannie Mae of Omaha. Every time I think of that, I can't remember the actress's name, but if I ever see her in anything else, I go, Fannie Mae from Omaha. I'm actually shocked here. I'm actually looking. It was supposed to be a project for Mick Jagger and David Bowie. What the?
I'm seeing that right now.
Who was going to be the uncouth one? Mick Jagger?
I don't know. I don't really know how that they would make that work.
Yeah, and also it's really funny that he spends all that time trying to teach him how to be a proper gentleman or whatever, and then just has him play like Rupert, all these idiot characters, and just to torture him to get the fuck out of, what is it, Nice? I can't remember what the city is that they're in. It's not Nice. It's something Dolmere or something like that.
Something on there.
Yeah. But I think what sends this movie into supernova, into an all-time classic, is Glenn Headley.
Yeah, yeah, she's pretty quality stuff.
Yeah, and you don't see it coming. Spoilers again, every time. You do not see that she's fucking playing them. And I absolutely love it.
Not for a second.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, I don't know what else to say about this. It is so insanely funny. The work that they do together. I think my favorite is the whole end when he's supposed to be emotionally crippled. And Dr. Schaffhausen, is that his name? Dr. Jeff Schaffhausen? And then he just keeps whipping his legs. And he goes running across the room to smack him on the leg and whatever. And he's holding the pain in, but he's pretending to think. There's so many jokes I do not expect. And I think a lot of that has to do with Frank Oz and Steve Martin working together to make something so classy, so high level intelligent, and yet simultaneously absolutely ridiculous and silly.
Yeah, how does a person do that? I just don't understand how they're able to just.
Well, I mean, think about the two worlds they come from. He was mocking the cliches, the old style comedy before it was cool to do that. So he was taking on something that was supposed to be kind of respectable, like the Vegas lounge act kind of comedian, and making it so absurd. He was like the polar opposite of what George Carlin and Richard Pryor were doing, and which is also very important, was being very confrontational, where Steve Martin was trying to question the norms and mock the standards, but without being in your face about it. And then Frank Oz and Jim Henson were taking what was traditionally just generic kids entertainment, fucking puppets, but infusing it with so much social satire and spoofing the whole world of entertainment and Broadway and stuff like that. And just two guys who were such good of heart and mocking stuff without being so obvious and lazy. And I really think they probably went to every joke. And if it was too easy, they would probably throw it away and layer it and try to make it unexpected and original.
God bless these intellectual comedians. I appreciate them so much.
Yeah, it's kind of sad
So much.
that Stepford Wives kind of killed Frank Oz's career.
Well, yeah.
But
It was kind of shitty, but I don't know if it was. I doubt it was his fault. But that's why you just don't do remakes.
Yeah, it's unless you have something. Yeah. I mean, he was doing a fresh take on it. I've never seen the original, but apparently it was a camp classic, not intentionally funny, but then trying to take something funny, but it was so big budget and there were so many people involved, so many egos, and it just kept getting rewritten and reshot, rewritten and reshot. By the time he was done, I believe he was taken off the film and the studio is what edited it. So that's why I don't hate the movie by any means, but you can feel there's too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, I wonder, he just seems like, did he just go back to like voice work?
No, I mean, a little bit here. For the most part, he just stepped back and retired. Yeah. And I'm looking at one of the main writers on this. He did Ruthless People, Blind Date, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, and My Cousin Vinny, and talk about 4 great fucking comedies of that era. It's so funny when people make a handful of really great stuff, they don't die. So there's really no reason why it just stops, but it just stops.
Yeah. And, you know, he still is doing a lot of voice work.
Okay. Yeah, he only did one movie after that, and I think that was Death at a
Think
Funeral.
about it, it's like Star Wars, he's still doing Yoda.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work right there. He was, Inside Out 2, which just came out. I mean, I think he probably just, said, let's go back to his roots or something. I don't know.
I remember.
That's too bad, because he directed some of the funniest movies I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
In life.
And it's so funny. This comes from Orion Pictures. And I remember when Orion Pictures was near bankruptcy, they were done. And I was working at McDonald's at the time. And for Christmas, they were selling VHS copies of some of their few hits for like $5, whatever. It's like, hell yeah, I'm taking Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. But you look at Orion Pictures, and I always wondered how the fuck they went out of business when they had just come off of like this, Bill and Ted's, Silence of the Lambs, and Dances with Wolves. But if you look at everything else around that, there's so few hits. They spent a lot of money. So, by the time those movies came out, they were already in bankruptcy. So, a legacy studio can't stay around if they're only having one hit out of 10 a year. Yeah, it's just gonna.
Man, it's really hard all the things that go into creating stuff.
Yeah. I mean, you can have the best of intentions and still, for whatever reason, it just doesn't happen. For every RoboCop they had, they had RoboCop 3. No time. All right, so our second film is Heartbreakers. Now, this one, I think, is sorely forgotten. Dirty Rotten Scoundrels was a hit in theaters, whatever, and found a long life on TV and video. I feel like Heartbreakers has been forgotten.
Yeah, it's one of those, I know that we don't have the most discerning taste in the world, but I really think that this movie is hilarious, fun, and actually really good. It has a lot of heart, but no luck.
Yeah, it got decent reviews at the time, and it did okay at the box office, even though I think a lot of it was, you look at the box office compared to the cost, it cost like $21 million, it only made 30. They probably considered that was kind of a flop, but this was when DVD was a phenomenon, so it must have made its money back. But what depresses me is David Macon only directed 2 movies, both kind of the same results. Cost a little bit of money, only made a little bit more, and then just disappeared. For the most part, he did Romeo and Michelle and then Heartbreakers, and 2 movies that are truly worthy of cult. And Romeo and Michelle found the cult audience almost immediately. Heartbreakers didn't. And he's just been a consulting producer on The Simpsons for the last 20 years. He has never created another movie or another show, and it's really heartbreaking. Oh, I didn't mean that as a joke. Do you remember when this was originally up when they were putting the project together, it was supposed to be Angelica Houston, Alicia Silverstone?
No, I don't really remember, although I could see that working.
Yeah, I don't.
Although they're not very believable as a mother and daughter couple.
Well, I also don't see Alicia Silverstone as a seductress, or really, maybe 10 years earlier, I could maybe see Angelica Houston, but she's never really been that kind of act. How do I even explain without insulting her? She has a very particular aura about her that you see used perfectly in the Addams Family. It's used perfectly in the Grifters. Now, if you want to see a very dark side of Heartbreakers, watch the Grifters, which is her, John Cusack, and Annette Bening. And that's a dark take on the con artist world, which I'm sure we will cover eventually. But and I feel like the casting they did in this one is absolutely pitch perfect. They look like their mother and daughter. Their chemistry is off the charts. Sigourney has never looked better. This and Galaxy Quest were like this revival of like, holy shit, she's fucking hot. And she's funny. That's the other thing is I don't really remember her being funny before this. Did I miss that? I mean, she was in a few comedies like Working Girl, but I don't remember her being funny. And they found some. Yeah. And Jennifer Love Hewitt before this was mostly known for dramatic work. You know, I Know What You Did Last Summer movies and Party of Five. And I shocked she didn't do more comedies after this where she's not the serious person. Like in Garfield, those are comedies, but she's not the comedic, element of it. She's fucking hilarious in this.
Yeah, I think, it just must have not just, didn't get the attention. I mean, I personally think that it's great.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's just like, Romy and Michelle found a cult audience. This one definitely did not.
And it's not just those two though. Whatever David Macon saw in some of these actors that they could be legitimately funny. Ray Liotta, who the fuck knew he was funny? This was complete change of pace because he always did very serious pot boilers or kind of like drama, like lower level drama, like Karina and stuff like that. Operation Dumbo dropped somewhere in there, but he wasn't funny. He is really funny. And then Gene Hackman, the only thing I've ever seen where he was slightly funny before this, I think he's kind of funny as Lex Luthor in the Superman movies. Sinister, but at the same time funny. Whatever he saw, Gene Hackman is absolutely downright locked into his character. So gross. So off-putting.
So gross.
And Jason Lee has never been more charming. And I wish...
They said the stack.
Yeah, it's... Besides, what is the movie where he's supposed to get married to Julia Stiles or something like that? I can't remember. It was around this time. It's him, Julia Stiles, and Selma Blair. That's the only movie I can think of where they saw him as possibly romantic. Oh, no. There's that one he did with David Schwimmer. Yeah. The one that he did with David Schwimmer, he's funny in, but it's a really irritating movie. But this is like right in his wheelhouse. And I wish people had captured onto that. But then, he found My Name is Earl, and that just changed everything. I haven't seen him in forever either, except for like small cameos and Kevin Smith.
All in a row, he did Big Trouble, Stealing Harvard, and A Guy Thing. And I don't really think any of those movies did well. And those were all his like comedy. I really like Big Trouble, but I don't really think that very many people do.
Well, the reason why that movie was supposed to come out a few days after 9/11 and they pulled it at the last second. And when it was time to release it, they said we had already spent our budget promoting the movie 6 months ago. So they just dumped it in theaters with like a $3 million promotion and nobody knew it was even out. And so, yeah, that one died a sad death.
He has a new show coming out that I'm excited. I watch it just because he's in it. It's a Netflix show though, but it's from like Shonda Rhimes.
Oh, okay.
So those series, her stuff tends to go well. So
yeah,
it's like Glass Onion type vibe.
Oh, okay. I know things kind of went bad.
There's a bunch of really good people in it. So hopefully, I really, really.
Yeah, he talks about it a little bit. He was sick of Los Angeles, and part of it was he left Scientology. And I think we've all seen what happens to anybody who leaves Scientology. And it's not like they spoke out against him, but we know the power they have, which is fucking terrifying, is that they can destroy a career. They can harass you until you... So he ran away to Texas, and he opened a restaurant and was doing charity work and stuff like that and doing artistic stuff. And then... Yeah, he
probably has kids and shit, right?
Yeah, so he said, he had to get them out of there. So, yeah, it's so weird to me that he was a legendary skateboarder. Like he had his own brand of. It's so funny to me. We get off on a tangent here, but yeah, it's another one of those where you do not know where any of these cons are really going. It doesn't,
Uh-uh.
and you think, oh, this is a surprise, this is a surprise. And yes, I do understand the part about her falling in love with Jason Lee is obvious and on the nose. That's the only part, but it's so fucking charming. How could you not want that to happen?
I mean, none of it really, like, don't look too deep into it because, like, it's definitely an insta love situation, which doesn't make any sense because she's so fucking mean to him. She's such a bitch. She's so crazy and, like, hot and cold. And, I mean, he's so down for, like, even being interested in her, but she should be interested in him because he is, you know, steadfast and adorable. So you get that, but why does he like her? Just she's hot, but she's fucking nuts.
I don't know. People see things that no, sometimes other people don't see. Maybe he saw it as a defensive wall, and that there was something else underneath all that. Yeah.
One of the defensive wall.
Well,
But also you gotta wonder too how many scenes will cut out of it?
yeah, it does. Yeah.
Movies feel rushed. I'm not saying that the editing seemed choppy because I definitely see movies where you're like, there's something wrong here with this editing. But this one, it just feels like they probably, rushed it. And there was probably a few scenes that ended up getting cut out because it's like, why is Sarah Silverman and Zach Galifianakis in this, but they don't do anything and they're not even funny.
But yeah, that part.
There's so many great people in this and like in smaller roles. Nora Dutch, she's like the queen in this thing, she's like got the best, small character bit or whatever. But there's so many hilarious people in this movie that you're just like, you didn't even need these people because you didn't let them be funny.
Yeah, it does feel like there's some trimming there.
On your floor,
But I will say this, Zach Galifianakis and Sarah Silverman weren't names at this time. Zach is still an underground comedian, and Sarah has only been on one season of SNL. That's it. But it does feel like if you're going to cast them, you're going to give them something funny to do. So I'm sure something got cut. There's two truly honest moments in this movie which make it work. And it's when she says, that I got pregnant with you. And she goes, that's the worst thing that ever happened to you, isn't it? And that's such a honest, raw moment. But then when she explains later in the car, when she's talking to Ray Liotta, that she is just trying to protect her from what had happened before to her. That her heart was destroyed and, left as a single mother to take care of her daughter. So
yeah, having her wasn't.
Yeah, the devastation that's left behind for any mother who's like, and I feel for any mother in real life that's like that, where they think that they're safe and they're okay, and then it just turns on. They don't really explain what happens, but there was some sort of betrayal.
No. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But that's the world that she also lived in, too, because she makes it very clear that she was a con artist before she ever got pregnant.
Right. Well, I mean, yes, but then when she found a mentor.
Yeah. Oh, that was great. See, that feels like a turn of events, like the way it was in Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, is that, oh, fuck, I can't remember her name. Anne Bancroft, whatever, like her little, I really expected them to say that was her mother. I really just kept expecting that. And it turned out it was just her mentor whenever now she wants revenge on her, and they were going after her at the end of the movie. And I was like, oh, you don't need a sequel. I can make up the sequel in my own head.
Yeah. Well, you're just like, but it's another one of those things where you're just like, you never know quite what's going to happen because everybody's conning everybody. Who can you trust?
Yeah.
When you think you've gotten it figured out, then you're like, motherfucker.
Yeah.
You con your own fucking daughter, you bitch. I get, you thought it was for the best, but fuck, that's terrible.
Well, that you never in a million years expect Gene Hackman to only be in this for like 20 minutes, to die halfway into the movie, and the movie has to completely change gears. You're like, whoa, what?
Now that statue and the penis.
Oh my god.
That just doesn't laugh.
My thing is when I laugh hysterically when she gets the Heimlich maneuver and spits the olive into that little rich boy's eye, and he's just like, it burns so bad. All right, so those are two great recommendations for everybody. Thank you, Mindy, for this great episode. I loved watching these again.
Yes, high quality. I love a heist. I love the shenanigans.
I'm wondering,
Uh,
I'm wondering what the first true con artist movie is. And I'm
but
kind of,
I
yeah.
bless you, whoever made the first one, because I just fucking love this genre of film.
Yeah, I
And
was,
also, just for you who want to, please listen to us and watch Heartbreakers. The only place that I can currently, I found it on Amazon Prime, and it's included.
yeah, well, Pluto does have it, but you have to sit the commercials. I'm not really fond of Amazon right now. So go support Pluto. Yeah. All right, everybody. That
If you can deal with commercials, yeah, watch it that way. But I'm a spoiled bitch, so.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Or whatever. Can I convince you as a night? Can I con you into that?